Alright guys, I have two clips of Romanian steel case 8mm. So I'll shoot them through my 24-47 and tell you the data. Ugh. 2751. 2690. I am noticing these shoot a little lighter than the PPU. 2724. 2680. 2691. Alright, let me get my second clip loaded. I wanted to see if this stuff would feed well from the brass clips that come with other surplus stuff. And it feeds okay. Two 638. 2696. 2700. 2710. And this is my last one of the 10. 2724. Alright, so as usual, I'll keep the chronograph results up right over here. The velocity low was 2,638, and that one was quite a bit lower than all of the others, and the high was 2,751, with a total spread of 113. Even with that one outlier, the velocity is still a little bit narrower than the PPU ammo. The spread, at least. Of course, the velocities are higher, as this is a lighter projectile. The mean velocity is 2,700.4 feet per second. One other thing I'd like to talk about with my range time, and I mentioned this in the video, the kick on my shoulder was just a little bit lighter. The felt recoil wasn't quite as strong because it's that lighter projectile, which was pretty nice. Every one of these rounds fired correctly. I didn't have a single issue with any of them. They all fired right on the trigger pull. There were no hang fires or duds. These are how the Romanian boxes come. They usually come in spam cans, although I bought these without a spam can. They're not sealed, so I'll just open them up. And they have 20 rounds per box. They come clipped with these black stripper clips. And I wanted to take a moment and tell you about a couple things. Firstly is these clips. Now these clips are almost 50 years old. They have been likely packaged on these rounds for 50 years. So the first thing that I did before I even went to the range was just strip these off and then see if any clips needed to be cleaned or taken apart. If you have one that's particularly stiff, it's pretty easy to take apart. There is a little lip right there, so you can just bend that up. Let's get a focus. There you go. Bend that up with a screwdriver and pull it off. And then there is a spring under this, just a piece of steel, that you can bend slightly. One or two of them also needed to be lubricated, and then after that, they have all worked completely fine. So it was just those couple that needed some work. The second thing I wanted to point out was with these casings. This one is one of the PPU cases, and this one is one of the Romanian cases. And it is just slightly shorter, maybe a millimeter or so short. And I'll get a picture of that so you can see it a little better. In Ian McCallum's video, he mentioned that this might be to help in feeding with machine guns, but he still wasn't sure, and if he's not sure, I am not going to be sure. So that is up to you to decide. So they are a little bit shorter. That didn't cause any problems for me. They head space off the shoulder. And in fact, these fed really well. They were really perfect rounds in that sense. One other thing I wanted to point out was that this had a red sealant on it. So you can see around the primer right there and on where the bullet was. I had to pull that off of there. However, I got it, but it is sealed with this red stuff to prevent moisture and other things from getting into the powder area. I'll also be sure to get you a picture of the head stamp. As usual, I also pulled some bullets. I'll get those numbers up right next to me. The bullet low was 152.8 and the high was 155.6. The total spread was 2.8, which is a little bit higher than the PPU ammo. Our mean bullet weight was 154.56. I put in the intro that this was 154 grain projectiles, could also be 155. It doesn't say anywhere that I have seen. So since these bullets are 154 or 155 grain, they are a little bit shorter than their 198 grain counterparts. I'll get a picture of that so it's a little bit clearer to see. This one is the Romanian. This one is PPU, however. The other Yugoslavian bullets I've pulled have been the same way. Another thing to note about these bullets is that they are steel core, so they do draw a magnet, which means you can play a fun game trying to pick up all of your Romanian bullets at one time with your magnet and makes cleanup a little bit easier. And as I already said, they are a little bit inconsistent, and there's that red sealant on there. When I pulled the bullets, I also measured the powder. So I'll put those numbers up right next to me. Our powder low was 44.4 grains, and our powder high was 45.6 grains, a total deviation of 1.2 grains. Our mean powder weight was 45.08. So again, that deviation is a little bit higher than the PPU, but not any great amount. Much like the PPU ammo, the powder is in these little pellets. I don't know if it matters too much, but these are a little bit more consistent in shape than the others are. However, there are still some inconsistencies. Again, I don't think that that matters too much. What matters is that it burns consistently and you get a consistent fire. So to conclude with my opinion of this ammo, one of the biggest pros is this ammo is fairly cheap still, about 50 cents around is what I paid for it. However, sometimes you can find steel spam cans still sealed that are in pretty great condition and for pretty cheap. Another bonus is that it has a lighter recoil, so if you're trying to introduce a new shooter to milsurps, or if you're just going to be shooting a lot that day, this is kind of nice. It's not as heavy on your shoulder. And it fed really well. I know that this ammo has a slightly shorter case than some other ammos, and that might be aiding for feeding in machine guns, I don't really know. However, it fed really well for me and it didn't cause any problems. One of the cons is that since it is both a lighter projectile and because it is steel core, the steel core is harder to get consistent. So if you're trying to do long-range accuracy or pushing your rifle out to the most that it can do, this probably isn't the best ammo for you. Also, lighter projectiles do a little bit worse in wind, so if you're trying to do long-range accuracy testing, you might want to choose a different ammo for that. However, for just plinking, for having a good time, this is a really great ammo for that. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I am excited to see you in my next video next week. This has been the Romanian Steel Core Surplus video, and next week I'm hoping to do a video on some Yugoslavian surplus.